We'll call the July 20th Williams County Board of County Commission meeting to order. Beth, will you call roll?
Barry,
Here.
Corey,
Here.
Bo,
Here.
David.
Here.
We have a quorum. We will continue. Let's start with the pledge. Let's start with the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Let's jump right into new business. UMDHU budget cycle correspondence.
I just put that in your packets so that you can take that with you, because you'll see that you have a meeting on the 27th and other things that you have to do. So it's just kind of a reminder for the health unit and the joint meeting and stuff.
Okay. Let's move on to Highland Crude Upping Delivery Pipeline Project.
That's something else that I just put in your packet in case somebody has any objections or anything that they want to comment on. I think, sent it to Dennis, and the water board has one too, so the engineer's looking at it in case there's anything that they feel that the county wants the pipeline to do in order to make it better for the county.
Okay. All right, next is Tate Symbolic Ed Rintamaki Stokey subdivision. You're missing something, Tate. Your phone. I'm kidding.
Good thing. It can stay there. If you could pull up the Stokey subdivision, which is on South County Road 9. And my name is Tate Symbolic for the record.
Thank you. You knew I was going to ask, didn't you?
Yep, sorry about that. What's that? Right on. You know where it's at? Sam, you want to help him? Thank you. What we're doing is Jake Stokey back here probably 15 years ago subdivided some of his land along the river. And we made 10-acre parcels. And the very south lot, it's currently rural residential. What Jake is doing is on the very south end of that property, he is doing a lot split. There's currently a house on there. He's splicing it off to make it a 7.5, 8-acre parcel. Ed's our surveyor. Ed, is that the correct rough acreage? Well, one of the requirements on these plats is you have to put all these drainage easements in there. And again, I completely disagree with that personally. I did when we approved the ordinance back in 2015. Not every plat needs to have these. Now, if you come in and do a new subdivision, I understand you may need that. This, all we're doing is a lot split. We're not altering the use, the utility, the access, nothing. The drainage will continue down towards the Missouri River. So we're just asking for a waiver of that requirement. I guess you have any questions, I guess I'll follow up with that. And if we have further questions, we can certainly ask Ed. He is the surveyor to this property for Jake Stokey.
Okay. How about any feedback from planning and zoning?
Sam Miller, good morning, Commissioner Sam Miller with County Planning. I would defer to Wayne on this. This was a comment that was submitted. It's a routine comment that we put on plats. It's actually been a topic of discussion amongst other committees, just for further clarification in our ordinance about the addition of drainage easements on plats.
And I looked at this very specifically and decided the drainage easements were not necessary in this case. And what I really said was that a general note for drainage courses on the west part of the lot should be shown. In my idea, that fulfills the ideal of the ordinance, and that we're alerting to future owners that there are drainages on this parcel, but drainage easements are not being required.
Okay.
So does that mean this is a moot point?
Yeah,
I apologize, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's-
That is not
yeah.
how it was relayed, so I apologize for wasting your time. Okay, see you guys later, have a good night.
thank you. All right. That was way easier. Yeah, all right. Okay, next one is Missouri Ridge Township 58th Street project.
Yeah, I was contacted Missouri Ridge Township Board of Supervisors about possibly collecting some special assessments and putting it against, dispersing it to the bank that they got the loan from directly. So Kelly and Travis are here to just explain stuff or answer questions.
Excellent. Yep, and if you guys want to just state your names for the record, just as a part of the process.
Kelly Book, Missouri Ridge Supervisor.
Travis Cooksey, Missouri Ridge Township Chairman. So we're here just to ask for the collections of the special assessments for this so that it goes directly to the payment of the bank.
Karen is going to give us some feedback.
Just to let you know, Missouri Ridge did, I mean, as you crawl, I think several months ago, they had done a project, 58th Street project, and they were showing our funds, and so they went and they got a loan from the North Dakota Public Authority, anyway, some kind of bank, anyway, so for $650,000. And so what they really want the county to do, and also plus the township itself contributed like close to $800,000 to the project. And so what the township wants us to do is to collect the special assessments, and rather than dispersing them to the township directly, like we're supposed to do, is they want us to just disperse it to the loan to pay off the loan then. And then any balance would go to the township to collect on their special assessments. When this was presented to the Finance Committee was in favor of doing this, but they wanted to charge an administrative fee of $1,000 for the services of the county, because this is going to be a 15-year loan, and it's going to require some internal work on behalf of the county staff, really. And I guess that was that. And I am working on a joint powers agreement, but I've got to talk to Travis and Kelly about a few details. And so I guess if you have any questions, I'm here.
Are you guys open to the $1,000 administrative fee?
Yes.
Okay. Seems like a no-brainer.
Okay. Thank you.
Boy, this has been easy.
We need a
Thanks.
motion to that effect.
Yeah, we
Mr.
probably
Chairman,
should.
I will certainly make a motion that we do the collection and disbursements of the special assessments for the 58th Street in Missouri Ridge Township.
Thank you, Commissioner Montgomery.
I will second.
Yeah, and authorizing the chair to sign the joint powers agreement once I get it finalized.
Bo second.
And include $1,000 admin fee. And that's paid up front, right, Karen?
Is that something you guys can do, or, yeah?
We'd have to get a check from.
We wouldn't expect it until probably by November 1st, but when you have to certify the assessments anyway, so you have a couple of months in there, so, yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay. I believe we're in discussion, but just to note, are you good with the addition of the signature and the $1,000?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any additional discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Motion passes, and just a side note, Mr. Book, thank you for the years of service to Williams County and all you've done. So much appreciated.
I'm still here for a while.
Yeah, all right, well, excellent. Just in case we don't get a chance to see you before that retirement day comes along, so
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. All righty. Planning and zoning, number 1, Hal Hickle. Good morning, Mr. Hickle, if you wouldn't mind
Morning,
stating
Hal
your-
Hickle.
Thank you.
I'll let Sam talk first if she wants to.
Okay.
Good morning again, Commissioner Sam Miller, County Planning. So just a bit of context on this situation. Mr. Hickle had applied for a zone change and was working through the subdivision process to create 4 lots from an existing parent parcel. So the parent parcel was in an agricultural zoning district. The creation of 4 parcels would put him in the rural residential zoning district. So this came before you back in June. The zone change was the only item that had to go through a public hearing process. As you know, subdivisions are administratively done. So the zone change was denied. I believe on the basis, I wasn't at that meeting, but I believe it was on the basis of public comment that was submitted, and approaches were an issue. I think that was brought up in planning and zoning. Staff, myself and Wayne had gone out to the site to look at the existing approaches. I think there was a concern to create 4 lots, that would be 4 new approaches along a county road that was already decently trafficked. So we went out there and noticed that there was only 3 existing approaches, and those new 4 lots would just utilize those 3 approaches. And at the time that they ever needed to add another one, they would have to come before the highway department to get access to a 4th approach. So regardless, that was denied. The zone change was denied, so the subdivision stopped. Without the zone change, you can't go forward with the subdivision. Mr. Hickle had also gone, or I believe Mr. Rentamaki had gone before the water board, which is also a requirement of this process. As you know, the water board's a separate entity from the county. We utilize them and we really appreciate them, but they are separate from us. So the subdivision, it was determined by their engineer, the water board's engineer, that the subdivision had to go through a de minimis effect study. They hired a private person to do that de minimis effect study, and then the subdivision was denied. It was halted. So they had to get the de minimis effect study done prior to the subdivision being denied, which is unfortunate. I guess that's kind of the context that I'll provide, and then Mr. Hickle can move forward from there.
Thank you.
Okay. I did hire a company to do a de minimis letter. They did it, and then I got a letter that I have to appear at the water board on the 26th of this month. And in that letter, it said I was postponed until after I went through the water board, and I was kind of surprised to learn that it had already went in front of you guys. The lot I'm trying to separate out, I have a house on there. The way it is now, I have to share with everybody else that owns a piece of that property. I quit working on it because of that until I get this separated out. Otherwise, the house just sits there vacant. And I talked to the tax department about it, and I said I can't move forward because I'm investing money that's going to enrich other people, even though they are relatives. The approaches were all there. They were in. It was set up for the original house that was going to go in there, and then it didn't happen. Yeah, you can see where it is on there. That I'm asking the county to separate that out. I can speak for my sister and my nephew. They couldn't be here today. My nephew is in training. He's a full-time National Guard in Bismarck. And my sister is there taking care of the grandchildren while he's training. My older brother is here too. If he wants to talk, he can talk about what he wants to do with separating out the land that he wants to separate out. Tell him who you are.
My name's Kelly Hickle. I'm a former resident of Williams County. Now I'm a resident of Burley County. But I grew up on this farm, picking rocks and summer following and combining on this stuff. And if I want to build a house out here on this property, I can't do it because I can't get a loan. They won't even give me a loan unless I own the property. So, you know, it can't be in shares, it can't be in anything else. And, you know, it was kind of weird because all of a sudden, bam, and I went, what? And here we are. You know, a lot of promises made and a lot of different people, but everything's been pretty well cut off. And here we are, back once again.
I will talk about the neighbor's complaints. The neighbor had an opportunity in 2014 to do a land swap for this quarter of land and another quarter of land to 2 quarters of land just outside the city of Ray. He didn't want to do a land swap. What he wanted to do was have his cake and eat it too. He wanted $5 million besides the land swap. In 2018, I tried to do it again through the city of Ray. He was there again and said he'd do a land swap. Well, he would do a land swap, but he wanted to do a land swap, and then he wanted $500 a house for every house that was put on the acreage. Well, that's not a land swap. Then when he finally wanted to do it, he didn't want to do the quarter next to the road. He wanted to do the one farthest away. And that didn't work either. So they had ample opportunity to own this land, and he didn't take advantage of it.
Okay.
That's about all I have.
Barry, do you
Any
recall?
questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna see if Barry recalled from the meeting why it got denied, or based on the comments, or?
Well, and it was based on the comments, but can we not have, I mean, they can divvy this up, right, without a zone change, right? I mean, because housing, residential is allowed in ag, right, correct?
Correct. However, the parent parcel already has a house on it. So that's kind of why I think they were separating it out. And so the property, I believe, is about 55 acres. So that fits into the agricultural zoning district. If they were to subdivide, they could probably do a 10-acre lot and then a 40 remainder, and that 10-acre would still have to be rezoned.
These were bigger than 10 though, right? Aren't they like 13 to
13.
15 or something like that?
Yeah, 13.7 or something like that.
Yeah, so there was going to be 4 lots, all averaging about 13 acres each. You're right, yep.
And we can do that, right?
Yeah, it just has to go through a zone change process, and that's the process they went through, and it got denied.
Okay, that's what I was getting at, is I thought we could have the split without the zone change.
No. Yeah, because in order for it to not go through the zone change process, all of those lots would have to be at least 40 acres. And they're under 40, so they are being rezoned to rural residential. And that's where this all got held up.
What is urban then the same acreage requirements?
So urban is from 1 to 5 acres, and then rural is from 5 to 40, basically. And then there's other factors that play into it too. So proximity to city limits, general uses around the area. As you can see, this is a big farming area, so rural residential made more sense to zone it to. All of those zone changes other than ag would require a public hearing process.
So, Mr. Hickle, let me ask a question, if I may. Is this pretty much basically just for a family split?
Yes.
There really isn't any intentions for the other ones at this time to build houses on their share?
I have my brother, I don't know, can I tell him? But basically what he wanted to do was build a home there for his son.
So the only thing that held this thing up was the comments from the neighbor, and that's what you gave the background on? And that's kind of what your thoughts are, Barry?
Yeah, I believe so, because at the time, I was the one that brought up the question about the approaches, because that distance between them two corners, I just, in the future, down the road, I mean, we certainly didn't want a school bus stopping around two blind corners or something like that, but that's not an issue, so, that concern was handled, so.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have another question, if I may. How did this become onto the agenda, I guess? Was the other party that was at the meeting prior notified that this was going to be on the agenda so that they could voice their opinions again?
No, that resident wasn't notified. This was placed on the agenda by Mr. Hickle as a discussion.
So we're just discussing this today, in your mind, with no decisions?
Is okay if I make a couple of comments?
Please.
Yeah, yep. Just so, okay, so when you made the decision to deny it, that was on June 15th. Mr. Hickle had, and his party has had 30 days to appeal the board's decision. He also had the opportunity to be at that public hearing when you heard it on June 15th. I appreciated the comment about whether or not the resident, Tom Wheeler, was notified about this today, because he wasn't. And technically, right now, what you're really giving Mr. Hickle is a rehearing on this. And under our zoning ordinances, we don't grant really rehearings unless the court, orders a rehearing on it, really. So my recommendation would really be to take no action whatsoever, because you already made the decision on this. So.
Okay, what are our options? What are Mr. Hickle's options?
So Mr. Hickle would have the ability to reapply, and then we just go through the process again.
Okay.
And everyone would be notified, and then they would have the ability to show up.
Okay,
I was under the understanding this was postponed until I got the de minimis letter in that meeting with the water board on the 26th.
that would,
Tomorrow? Well,
that's understandable. I mean, I get that. Does that make sense?
Does what make sense? I
Well,
don't,
this is why I'm confused in this whole thing, because what is the de minimis, whatever, I can't even say the dang word.
de minimis.
De minimis.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
it doesn't
de
have
minimis
a lot
letter.
of impact, really, so.
So why would you have to go through that procedure and spend money on something when it's already been denied? That's where I'm confused.
That's a good question. I don't know why the water board is looking at it now, since it's already been denied.
The water board looked at it and was told about it before it was denied. Isn't that right, Sam? So the water board got a hold of Hal and told him that he'd have to have a de minimis effect letter, which says that it's not going to affect, the drainage is going to change, nothing's going to happen. And the reason for that is so that, neighbors are notified and stuff. And so that was required before it was denied.
Well,
So when
something's
was the
broken.
process started to do that?
When were you notified? Wasn't it last month?
on the de minimis letter? Yes, I was notified last month, and then I had to find a company to hire.
And this was denied in June.
Yes, and the water board
So
met.
why wasn't the comment to the water board that I'm not moving forward with this because it's already been denied?
Because that would have had to come from Sam, not me.
Well, I would think it would have come from the landowner. If the landowner got it denied by this board in June and it was required in July, I guess common sense tells me, somebody tell me if I'm wrong, but if I'm the landowner, I'm not going to pay for something that's already been denied.
The water board required it in June, and they were never notified by Mr. Hickles, so I don't know.
All I know is I got a letter saying it was postponed until I had the de minimis letter.
So typically, before we can record a plat, we require them to go through water board, because if there are any changes that the water board finds that needs to be shown on the plat, we're not going to record the plat. And then if something needed to be shown, the whole process to revive a plat and amend it is really difficult. So that's why we make them go to the water board during this process concurrently. And then de minimis effects studies are a lot quicker. They get performed a lot quicker than, let's say, a stormwater management plan. So typically we're running concurrently. In this case, the de minimis effect was performed before a decision was made on the plat. So that's kind of where we got mixed up. And
Okay, and it's, I sensed that there was maybe like some empathy for the fact that they went through that process and then having been denied. And so I didn't know if there was some confusion around this or timing got off and, gotcha. Okay,
I did not even have the de minimis letter before you guys met and denied it,
right,
but I'd already hired the company to do it.
gotcha.
so we can advise Mr. Hickle to reapply and go through the process again. And we'll look into the ordinance just to verify that they don't have to wait a certain amount of time before they can reapply, because I'm not sure if there's a waiting period.
Okay,
Commissioner Montgomery, would you speak up so I could hear what you said here before that?
I guess if you've gone through the process with the de minimis, Mr. Hickle, it would only make sense that, in my mind, then that you reapply, because you've gone through the expense already to do it.
And seeing how, I mean, I'm thinking there, you know, we got the cart ahead of the horse kind of a thing and a deal. So is there like a filing fee that, I mean, we can waive that? I mean, because obviously I think the mix-up was on our part. So I don't think it should cost them twice.
I think you got a nod from Cameron. Okay,
Cameron, I think you can do that administratively, can't you? Yep.
okay. Okay. Does that sound fair?
Okay, reapply?
And it will waive the fee.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right, moving on to number 2, ordinance amendment to chapter 6 through 13, giving board direction to limit number of T-norms proposed.
Yeah, that would be me. Yep, thank you. Yep. Karen Prout, Williams County State's Attorney's Office, for the record. Okay, so during the meetings that they had, you know, in terms of like the T-norm and whether or not it's allowed in the county, one of the issues came up was whether or not we could limit the number of T-norm facilities in the county. So I did some checking and found that we could, but we would have to change the ordinance, giving the board the authority and the discretion to limit the number. And so in talking with David Montgomery, he asked me to draft an ordinance for the board to consider. And so you should have a copy of the ordinance. And basically it just says the board has the authority in its discretion to limit the number of T-norm and other nuclear and radioactive waste facilities. And then it says how the number of that you want it to limit it to. So I guess it's really up to the board whether it's something they want to do or.
It looks like this one says draft on it.
Wouldn't we technically still have the ability to limit them? Because any additional applicants would have to come through planning and zoning first, right?
Yep.
And don't we think with the amount of tonnage that they're allowed with their license, the industry's gonna take care of this limiting, because there's only so much to go around.
Right, but wouldn't, without this, if the next entity that would apply, if we were to deny them, it'd look more like we were kind of picking and choosing, you know, winners and losers here. So with this, I mean, it's, oh, I'm for it, so.
Okay.
And I guess I looked at it, Barry, and thought we were picking winners and losers by doing this, Because that means the first guys that were here were the winners. And if we said, well, that's 2, that means we already picked them. So I thought the exact same way you did, but with the opposite answer.
Commissioner Montgomery, I think it'd be fair if you want to provide a little outline and the thought and, that you put into this. Obviously, there's time and effort here.
I'm collecting my thoughts, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome
I
for
guess
putting you on the
It
spot.
goes back to the very beginning of, I have never wanted Williams County to be a dumping ground for everybody. And I think this is one way of controlling it, because I also feel, obviously, I think as everybody else did, that if we produce the waste here, we need to find a place to put it. But that doesn't mean we don't need 10 or whatever facilities. And Mr. Hanson, I concur with you that the fact that the industry should take care of themselves. But we all know when things are wild and crazy, that doesn't happen. And that doesn't mean that things can't get wild and crazy again. So I guess that's my intent, is that we should do our part to do our best, I guess, to control how many of these are going to operate in Williams County.
Does this have a provision for if one shuts down?
Yep, it's factored in there that when granting or considering granting a conditional use permit for one, you will factor in any sort of open active permits for a facility. So yes, it does.
I guess the other thing, Karen, too, is I guess we need to clarify, because of the new technologies that's come out since we first handled it, is that my concern, I guess, has always been the landfills. With what KT Enterprises has done with the disposal wells, I think they need to be separated out. Because to me, the landfills and the disposal wells are different. I guess my point, Barry, is that I don't think that the disposal wells should be included in this.
Is that something that can be definitively written out of the limit?
Just as a reminder, the disposal wells don't even seek county authority. It's all
Oh.
done through the state, so they wouldn't come through us anyway.
NDIC is,
Correct.
Okay.
So it's not something we regulate.
so it's not something that would,
Even if they build a facility?
Correct. Completely done by the state. Any injection well. If there's accessory buildings that are outside of the scope of operating the well, such as employee break rooms, restrooms, then yes, we would issue building permits for those. Typically, no, we don't require that.
It's my opinion, I don't know, I'm not in favor of this. We allowed T-norm disposal, now we have 2 sites that are already permitted. And to be frank, I don't want every damn truck within 100, 200-mile radius going by my house. So I'm not in favor of limiting the disposal, as much as I despise the fact that we allowed it anyway. So, in my opinion, you let the free market take care of it. They want to put in 100 of them, I guess that's the bed we made.
okay. Does staff have any input that they want to share?
Nothing specific. We're just looking to the board's discretion and decision on how they want to handle this moving forward.
Okay.
Well, and just for the record, I did work with the planning and zoning staff on, crafting this ordinance really, so, yeah.
Okay.
And any comments that they had were sort of factored into, the wording of the ordinance really, so, and they did have some, so.
Okay. Any other thoughts prior to any additional, I guess thoughts at this point? We're not in discussion, so. And if there aren't, I guess, what are the wishes of this board?
Well, I would make a motion that the county adopt ordinance 2021-07-20.
Okay, we have a motion Is there a second?
I'll second the motion for discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Discussion.
I have just, if you're going to approve it, you're going to have to tell me the number to stick in there, really, in terms of how many you want to limit it to, really. So,
Well, I think that'll be part of the discussion.
okay, just, yeah, I just want to make sure it's covered, so thank you, yeah.
Well, my feelings or my thoughts would be that we don't want so many that, because it is a business, they have to be, they got to stay viable. And there could be, if we were to get to, $140 crude and it's like, holy buckets, we need a bunch of these. And then by the time they get built and permitted, it's down to $40. Well, there's no, I mean, I think it would be best if we looked out at the number of these to begin with rather than after the fact. I do agree with Bo on that, but I think we've already dumped the sticks out of the box, so we have to try to limit the problem, I believe, because there is there will be a problem. There's some of that stuff that just cannot be. You cannot grind up the line heaters and polish rods and inject them, and we got to have a place for it. So it's back in the day when everybody signed that lease. This is what we get.
And to Mr. Norbeck's benefit, I think what his thought and plan is to develop ways to clean those items up, and whether acidizing them and dissolving whatever, because it's not the pipe itself that gets radioactive, it's the deposits that are on, the scaling, and so his thought is that we haven't given enough chance for him to figure out a way to do that, and so that is part of the process, I guess, so.
Well, with anything, with any luck, technology will come along to where this makes this all beside the point. But till then, which could be, 20 years, 50 years, we don't know, so.
I think this was done with good intent. I have a tendency to believe that the market will determine this, and I had not given, I appreciate Bo's perspective on this. I think it's that's a very interesting perspective. I didn't actually expect it, but it makes sense actually in what he had to say. So I just have a tough time limiting this, and then when I think the industry will do it itself. I just don't think that there's I don't know, that's just my personal opinion. I guess we can continue discussion here, and
Cameron, Sam, we have how many existing landfills in Williams County that could potentially handle this product that are already existing, besides the 2 that we approved?
I believe it was 5 or 6, I think is what we were told by the state. Yeah.
And is the application process, is it $250,000 or 200,000, or, I mean, it's a fairly significant fee they pay up
It
front
is.
before coming to us even, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Obviously, this goes through hearing process, right? I mean, if it's approved, it's got multiple readings and hearings and whatnot.
No, because under our zoning ordinances, the board on its own motion has the right to amend the zoning ordinances, really. So it'd be really approval by the Board of County Commissioners, and then we would publish it once in the paper, so no, it wouldn't go through any public hearing process.
And then for just, if we were going to do this, what number would we limit it to? Because obviously the footprint of these 2 disposals is limited. I mean, it's not a finite, sooner or later they'll be full. And unless we expand their footprint, if they're still using this technology, they're gonna have to go somewhere else. So would we limit it to just the two at current? Or would we factor in future expansion or what?
Sorry, not to answer, I can't answer that question, but I just want to clarify, Lindsay, she's great with numbers. She just informed me there were 4 potential current operating landfills that could be amended for T-Norm.
I mean, despite my opinion, I would like to see public opinion on it. And I don't want to discredit Mr. Montgomery's thoughts and stuff here. I also want to say that part of this is my, I mean, it's just where I live. So I have to deal with it. So I apologize for my behavior. However, I mean, that's my personal opinion. But I would like to hear the public's comments, because if they choose that this is the right path, then that's the right path.
Cameron and Sam and Karen, would it be more, I'm trying to find the right word, for an existing landfill, more easy for them to apply for the T-Norm waste than rather than somebody coming in and purchasing 160 acres to build a brand new one?
It would certainly be a shorter road because they have a lot of other things already in place. Correct.
And Mr. Anderson, just out of curiosity, how far are you away from the Dishon disposal?
Oh, it's probably 4 or 5 miles.
Oh, no, I can never remember. Yeah, if you did want to have a public hearing on it, maybe probably the best route would be just to maybe push through the Planning and Zoning Commission, have them have the public hearing on it, make a recommendation, and then bring it to this board. So that would be an option.
I think that's an interesting option from my perspective, and I appreciate that public comment aspect of it. No? So we have
Well, I guess, you know, as far as the public input part of it, we currently don't have any applicants, right? I mean, okay, so there's no real big rush to have this, right? I mean, you know, it doesn't have to be done today because the process, gee whiz, for the process part of it, it took them people month, you know, not counting the moratorium, it took months anyway. So, I mean, do we not have time for some public comment or something about that, or what, Dave? What's your thoughts, Dave? I mean, on that.
Well, I'm certainly wouldn't be in favor of denying public comment to anybody, I guess, Barry, but I didn't realize this was going to be that big of a contentious issue, I guess, so probably the best thing then is just let a sleeping dog lay and see what happens.
How do you undo the motion then?
Yeah, we vote on it and then but I do think that I think running it through the Planning and Zoning Board and allowing for some public comment or input would be helpful. And then
There could be a motion made to that effect, I guess.
post this.
Yep, thank you, yep.
Okay.
If I may just clarify, Barry, yeah, we currently don't have any pending applicants that we're aware of that have applied. Being that they do need to receive local planning approval first, that doesn't mean that someone couldn't come in the near future, but at this point, we haven't had any word or any applicants apply again for that.
Well, and if there is something that's in the works that we're not aware of just yet, I mean, that they can be tabled till after the public comment session is over.
Correct, yeah, they could be tabled at the planning and zoning level and also at the board level.
Yep. Okay. All right, any additional discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Steve,
No.
Bo,
No.
David,
Nope.
Barry,
No.
Corey,
No,
Okay, motion failed, with the spirit, I think, of having this run through planning and zoning and allowing for some public comment. Do we need a motion to support that? Okay.
Yes, please. Yep.
I will make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Bo. Is there a second?
What's the motion?
To run this through planning and zoning to allow for public comment.
I'll second it.
Okay.
so is that just gonna be administratively running it through there? I mean, how are we gonna go about?
No, we'll treat it like we would really we would go do the advertisement, publish in the paper, publish the meeting in the paper. No, it would go through the whole process really, so, yeah.
We'd allow them to have input, and it allows the planning and zoning commission to have input
Yep,
as well.
Yep,
right?
yes,
I mean,
correct.
that's
Yep,
So,
yep.
any additional discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote?
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes,
Steve,
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, communications. And you're the next contestant on The Price is Right.
Yay. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. So with the Family Crisis Shelter on an annual basis, the board typically grants them $10,000 and has been doing so for quite some time. So I'm here today to help tie a bow on that process in terms of authorization of that payment for when the grant is issued, but also the Family Crisis Shelter has an opportunity to receive matching federal funds for the county funds, and so they need something in writing that says that you typically do this. So in working with Terry Bendixson, who has affiliations with the Family Crisis Shelter, and Beth and Karen and Christy, we've drafted this letter for you that then puts into writing the process for them to submit the request each year by July 1st, so that way it can be included in your budget planning cycle. And therefore, if you approve that during your budget cycle, we will then automatically issue those funds the following January. So today I'm looking for a motion to authorize the chairman to sign the letter, as well as then issue that payment within the first pay cycle of January of the following year, if it is approved during that budget cycle.
Okay, so we can turn 10,000 into 20,000 with just one letter.
Yes.
Wow. You're magic.
Someone said there was a money tree. I don't know.
Okay, what are the wishes of this board?
I would make a motion to approve the plan presented and authorize the chairman to sign the letter.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, Beth, roll call vote?
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes,
Steve,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Dennis?
Okay, county, excuse me. And County Road 10 is slightly open, west of 85. Gravel's in place. On Friday, they plan on paving and should be fully opened Sunday, Monday, depending on schedule. Very well, went very well. They started on Twin Lake School last week. I haven't been there yet, but they started at the Twin Lake School box culvert. From there, and then they'll continue on up to the 29 mile. County Road 7, they started paving last week. It's going fairly okay. Fairly okay.
That's a
Fairly okay.
loaded comment there.
Yeah. Well, even paving operations in the heat doesn't work real well.
Oh.
But they're they're doing fairly okay. All right, that's all I have unless we have anything else. Townships are out and about spraying dust control for the ones that received or applied for. Some are.
Did John get a hold of you with Pleasant Valley? They were gonna do them 2 houses on 23, but they thought maybe it was kind of hard packed. It might not soak in as well, but I told them just to give you a call and see if they could schedule it around when the next time the grader was over it and fluffed it a little bit so it would absorb instead of run off, but
Yep.
that was yesterday evening, so he hasn't got.
Yep. Haven't heard from him yet, but
Okay.
yep, we can do that. Probably just hit it with a little chemical and enzymes and it'll suck it in. Okay? All's good? Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate it. Karen?
I didn't stick this on the agenda because I didn't really think about saying anything. But anyways, I just want to give you a heads up, sort of an update. As you recall, like several weeks ago, a gentleman named Fenton Dooley came and talked about the saltwater spills like around Williams County and trying to take care of them. And so he's been in contact by email and phone with me from Williams County, McKenzie County State's Attorney, and also Montreal County State's Attorney about what the counties can do and stuff. So he's actually going to be coming to my office on Friday so I can really find out what he's wanting from the county. And at one point, I kind of got the impression from him that what he was looking for the county was just to encourage landowners to go to these public meetings or public hearings they're going to have about these saltwater disposal wells. But now, recently, he sent me a link to the amount of assets that each county in North Dakota has in terms of what's available for use. And so I'm thinking that he eventually might be coming to the Board of County Commissioners seeking some sort of financial thing. So I just really wanted to give you a heads up about that, really. So he's going to come to my office on Friday so I can really find out what he really is looking for and sort of go from that direction, really. So, I mean, yeah. So I just want to let you know that that was going on, so.
What's his name?
Fenton Dooley.
Can you clarify what he's really looking for is, and you say assets, and then, so
Money.
he's looking for money?
Money. Yeah. Well, at first he told us, the 3 people from the state's attorneys, that really what he was really only looking for is for the board to encourage landowners to go to these public meetings they're going to have about it. But now, just this past week, I received email from him indicating how much money each county has, and suggesting that the counties would maybe pony up money. So I think he might be looking to the county for some money on this, so, and possibly other things. That's why I'm willing to talk to him on Friday to see really what he wants. So, yeah, and I already have explained to him many times that if there's something you're going to want the county to do, you're going to have to come to the board and ask them. So, because I cannot authorize, and I'm not going to authorize anything whatsoever. So I just want to give you a heads up about that was really going on, so.
Okay.
Yep. So,
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Helen?
So as it turns out, I'm going to be on the phone for the next commission meeting, and because I'll be out of town. And I realized that there was something I planned to present then that I really wanted to be here to have discussion about. And so it's not on the agenda, but here I am today to talk about this first and then positions. So as you know, 2020 was a census year, and Lindsay from the communications department did a great job of running what I would call sort of a regional complete count committee. And so we tried to get as many people in Williams County that included all the cities. And of course, we were glad to help other counties as well with promotion to get people involved. The pandemic made it a little difficult in the middle. You remember that the deadline was extended, but it was complicated. So now all of the data is being tabulated. It will go to the governor, and then the counties have some obligation to do some work. And the first piece of that is that we have to set up a committee. And there's information, I have a list here, and I'm going to read it off to you about what we need to do. And we probably need to get started. I would suggest that Lindsay can do some communication for us to get this rolling. And then as the process happens, there's new technology that over the last 10 years, because we only do this every 10 years, that we can utilize through GIS. The platform that really all GIS runs on, maybe not all, but most in the world, knows this is coming and has a tool. So our employees are ready to support the efforts of the committee. I think in the old days, there were paper maps and colored pencils because you have to try and distribute population equally. And now we'll be able to do that more efficiently with technology. So maybe the work in the background for this committee will be done by the county GIS department. We can have Lindsay do some communication, and now I'll tell you who's on the committee. The Board of County Commissioner Chairman is on the committee, and I think generally chairs the committee. Williams County State's Attorney, a citizen or governing board member of the largest city, township supervisor selected by the township supervisors at a township supervisors meeting convened by the county auditor, a citizen at large selected by representatives from each of the cities excluding the large city, and the county auditor, acting ex officio, a non-voting member for the purpose of advising the redistricting board on existing election districts and precinct boundaries. So it's my suggestion that we have Lindsay draft letters and start the process to coordinate who's going to be on the committee from these other organizations and figuring out a date for the first meeting. The rule is the redistricting board must convene no later than November 1st, 2021. So the thought is, you know, but it says it right here on my note. Oh, it's an example.
Yep. So they have to, no, it's on your paper. It's 3 months. So if the official publication date is August 1st, then it has to be no later than November. No, August is 3 months. 3 months from the date that they're officially released, and the official release date is the day that the governor gets them. So right now they're thinking it's the middle of August.
Oh, it's been pushed a little. Okay, so the point is, we have to be ready when the data comes out. There has to be a meeting, and then there are deadlines to get the work done. So we don't want to delay too long getting the folks ready for this committee, because when we get the data, we got to get moving, is the point. So I think we need I think we'd like a motion from you to get this process rolling, just so that we're on the official side of things. And I think it will be Lindsay moving forward who will give you updates on what's going on, or the chairman who will be on this committee on our behalf.
Okay. So it's on your marks, get set, and then almost go. Okay, what are the wishes of this board?
I would make a
Chairman, I'll make a
motion.
motion to get the process rolling for the 2020 Census Redistricting Committee.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote?
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to position requests. I emailed this out. I think Beth makes copies for those who want it. We are seeking a status change for a position. We have casual, which is non-benefited, erratic hours, part-time, which is under 20 hours a week, and then anything over 20 hours, well, I'm simplifying it. Let's just pretend there's part-time and full-time. So we have a position in the auditor's office that is focused primarily on election work, and what that means is in between elections, we have a lot of data to update. However, because of some changes going on, and in particular because of the school board changes or the school district changes, there's additional data work that needs to be done ahead of the 2022 election. And so we'd like to provide the opportunity for us to get a leg up on getting that work done over the next, let's call it 10 months ahead of the June primary, and then, continue to work to refine our data. We also know that this data set is going to be converted to a more modern platform in 2023. And it will likely take some work out of the auditor's office to make that conversion. So we see a long-term need for more hours out of this position. So this is an unbudgeted change. However, we think that there will be sufficient funds in the auditor's office budget to cover the addition. If not, of course, we'll come in for a budget amendment at the end of the year. We do have an existing person that is trained and capable of doing the work. And so if it is approved here, we'll have a conversation with her to see. We think that she's interested in continuing to do the work, just more hours a week, but we need to have that conversation once we have your approval.
Okay, what are the wishes of the board?
I'd make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes, motion passes.
On the list that I sent out, we were looking for one corrections officer. The sheriff gave me an update. What happens these days is when the state of North Dakota has peace officer training, then some agencies hire folks who have some involvement in law enforcement or an interest in the field, and then they send them to training. So they pay them and send them for the 10 or 11 weeks that training takes. It's not the way that Williams County handles patrol deputies, but it's the way some agencies do. So he did tell me that we have 2 folks that are leaving to go to other agencies that are going to send them to training. And he has one other resignation that he thinks is pending probably today. So we're gonna say it's 4 corrections officers coming up in the next 6 weeks probably that we're gonna lose, and so we'd like permission to fill those positions. There's also a youth care attendant position that we're looking to fill as well.
Okay, what are the wishes of the board?
Helen, that seems like a lot of officers to lose in just short order. Is it a pay thing? Is it what? Do we have any idea what it is, or is it just something that maybe
Yeah.
they're getting closer to home, or?
Yeah, I mean, it right in this.
No, I agree. But my question is there something that we can do on our side? I mean, I'm not questioning what Verlin does. I'm saying, is it a?
No, I think it just is coincidental. For sure, we see this happen. I think the state runs these trainings twice a year. And we do see that folks who work at the jail they have an interest in law enforcement. If you want to think of it as the next step, which not everybody does, but some do, going to peace officer training is one way to do it. And so we do typically see if somebody's interested in moving on when these classes are available and other agencies are willing to send them, we see it happen. So it's just a coincidence. And certainly Verlin and I, we ran a market study this year, and Verlin and I had a meeting as we were putting the budget together 6 weeks ago. We analyzed all of the compensation information, and, we think we're fair, equitable.
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the positions.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes,
Bo,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
motion passes.
Great, thank you.
One thing before we cut out of here, this may be unfair, Cameron, but I just got a notice that the North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality is in the midst of an enforcement action against a Proppant warehouse east of Williston. Are you familiar with that? Yeah. Proppant, yeah, so frac sand and.
I believe that's inside the city limits. Cameron, you and I have talked about it.
Oh, okay, it's not.
It's in the city limits of Williston, so it's in their JTA. Cameron and I talked about this same place, I don't know, what was that, 3-4 months ago? I've had a few calls on it, and
It's
I'm
a
glad to see they're
disaster.
doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's within the ETJ, and I did alert Mark Schneider over at the city. I'm not sure what's happened since on the city side, but.
But if DEQ's involved, I mean, this is this more than just Proppant sand? Okay. Perfect. Anyway, sorry, I just wanted to make sure to, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, with that, yes, Beth?
On behalf of myself and my office, I truly appreciate your consideration in approving this position.
Absolutely.
It's going to help out tremendously. So thank you.
Thank you for all you do. Yep, Park Board at 9:30. We'll adjourn as of 9:05.